What's up, losers? Today I've got yet another bunch of r/fatlogic posts to dissect and poke fun at. This video is number 8, I think. Honestly, it's getting hard to keep track with how many I'm making. Haha, you'd best believe that I'm always on that Sigma grind set. Just kidding. Anyway, let's get into the posts.
Nobody gives a frick that you're skinny. Honestly, go frick yourself with a cactus.
Really? Nobody gives a frick? It sure sounds like you give a frick, haha. As for the cactus, well, I might have to take a pass on that one. I don't think my ass could handle it, in all honesty. But yeah, this is such a classic fat logic post. The constant projection and denial. Like, does anyone actually know any skinny people who brag about being skinny? I'm guessing not, but because these people are jealous, they imagine that skinny people are constantly boasting about their weight in their head and putting fat people down. It's sad to see people spewing vitriol at other people who didn't do anything wrong, just to make themselves feel better. Because actually making a positive change in your life is too difficult, I guess. Sighs.
I really do not think people understand how pervasive medical neglect of fat people is. I was speaking to my mother about how, when I was in college, I went to a doctor for a body-wrecking cough that had lasted for months, and how I was given no medical tests. I was just told to lose weight and get over-the-counter cough medicine, and she didn't believe me. But this was just an extremely common thing from my experience as a fat, then obese person. People who are not fat and have never been fat do not understand that doctors will diagnose any symptom as just a side effect of being fat. And that's why you should never, ever, trust any statistic that implies fatness increases death rates of any ailment without digging deeper and questioning it. Often, it is not anyone's weight that kills or disables them, but rather, their doctor's reaction to their weight.
This is another classic hallmark of the fat acceptance thought process. Taking a single anecdote, literally one bad experience they had, and expanding it to some all-encompassing condemnation of dieting, the medical system, and society as a whole. Like, even if I accept the account of the doctor visit in question as being a totally accurate and unbiased account of what happened, it still only amounts to a single story. One doctor visit, one patient, one viewpoint. Yet this poster feels justified in dismissing the entire body of research linking obesity to increased death rates. Basically saying, I had a bad experience with a doctor. Therefore all research findings that suggest obesity causes premature death can be explained away by bad medical advice being given to fat people. And, of course, by fat phobia.
Some reminders. You are not a failure because you can't relentlessly suppress your body's very natural urges for food long enough to make yourself smaller. The less food you give your body, the more it will crave. That's just biochemistry. That's not you failing, or having a weak will, or falling off the wagon. The idea that fat people are lazy and gluttonous for not starving themselves is diet culture BS. There are no diseases that only fat people get. Thin people routinely suffer from diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, bad knees, back pain, psoriasis, eczema, and cancer. Studies done on fat people having these issues more often rarely include mental health, smoking, drinking, or sedentary lifestyles in their calculations. An active, non-smoking, happy, fat person who eats whatever they want, hydrates well, and gets enough sleep can be significantly more healthy than an inactive, chain-smoking, thin person. You can be fat and in shape. You can be fat and have normal to low cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar levels. You can be fat and healthy. Food makes up a far smaller percentage of health than we thought it did. Mental health, non-food related health practices, income level, and genetics play a significant role as well. If your cholesterol is high, you can go on medication to lower it. You don't have to put yourself on a strict diet. I say this, not because I don't believe natural cures work. I say this because cutting out large food groups on strict, health-based, fad diets will cause binging, food obsession, and weight gain in the long run. Regardless of all of this, people can still claim that fatness is less healthy than thinness. Okay, but the solution still doesn't work. Restrictive diets, aimed at losing weight, will routinely fail, because the body reads the restrictions as starvation, and fights tooth and nail to get you to eat more. People who lose significant amounts of weight far more often regain it, plus some extra, and they stay thin. Study after study has shown that diets fail in the 90+ percentile range after a few years. So why are we all still clinging to a solution that not only doesn't help, but actively harms people?
So much to unpack here. I guess I'll have to go through it point by point. Number 1. I don't believe in unnecessarily shaming fat people, or calling them gluttons, for failing to lose weight, but I don't see how it's useful to avoid characterizing this as a failure of the will. Because, while some diets are going to be better and easier to adhere to than others, you will ultimately have to demonstrate some force of will and discipline if you want to succeed in losing weight in the long term. Acknowledging that people have cravings for food is not the same as accepting the inevitability of overeating and obesity. It is perfectly possible to endure these cravings and reap the rewards of your forbearance in the long run, and doing so will make you feel much better about yourself than giving in to your every fleeting desire possibly could. Number 2. No, there are no diseases that only fat people get. But there are diseases that fat people are much more likely to get than thin people. And you have identified a few of them yourself. You bring up smoking, drinking, mental health, and a sedentary lifestyle, but those are just red herrings, aren't they? They worsen health outcomes for fat people and thin people, but they don't account for the difference in outcomes between the two groups. Also, if you fail to recognize the link between a sedentary lifestyle and obesity, you're being willfully ignorant. Number 3. Sure, you can use medications to combat some of the conditions brought on by obesity. But it's not wise to default to medication when you could achieve those results through lifestyle changes. This is especially true because the bigger you get, the more difficult it will be to counteract the effects of your obesity through medication. And at a certain size, it will become flat out impossible. And that's not even getting into the mobility and quality of life problems that will inevitably arise if your weight gain continues unchecked. Number 4. Sure, fad diets that aim to cut out entire food groups are difficult to maintain. And you know what? I wouldn't endorse any of those diets. It's much better to just focus on running a moderate calorie deficit with a varied, balanced diet, than to fall down the rabbit hole of some crazy carnivore, keto, or fruitarian diet. If you choose the wrong diet for you, because you want to get quick results, without putting in the work, then you can hardly be surprised when the diet fails. And finally, the age-old point about how apparently 90% of diets fail. I've spoken about this one a couple of times now. Even though I am skeptical of the 90% figure, it doesn't matter regardless. When all is said and done, even if 90% of people fail, there's no reason you can't be in the 10%. There's nothing stopping you, other than a defeatist attitude and an unwillingness to try and keep trying, in spite of the discomfort and obstacles you might face. I find it really sad to see people just throw up their hands and say that they have no control over these things, because it's just not true. If you choose a responsible diet plan, commit to it, and hold yourself responsible for sticking to it, there's every chance that you will be able to make amazing progress. So yeah, fat activists, please stop telling people to give up on themselves.
Commenting on people's weight loss. I've been both fat and thin, but my natural state is fat. The few times I lost weight, I'd get showered with compliments. I know people meant well. And I'd say thank you and move on. But it just made me feel like I must have been some hideous monster before I lost the weight. And it adds to that fear you have, that if/when you gain the weight back, you lose something.
First of all, your natural state is not fat. That's not a thing. It might make you feel better about yourself to believe that when you're fat, it's just a reversion to your body's natural state of being. But it's not. It's almost certainly the product of changes in your food consumption and/or exercise, both of which you can control. So you shouldn't take agency away from yourself by assuming that your weight is something inherent, rather than something that is largely determined by behavior. As for your reaction to being complimented on weight loss, it's sad to hear that you would think of your fat self as a hideous monster. But it's important to remember that the people who are complimenting you on your weight loss don't actually think that way. They've just seen what they believe to be a positive change that you've made in your life, and want to give you some praise and encouragement. I understand how insecurity can make it feel like everyone is judging you. But ultimately, it's all in your head. So try not to dwell on it too much, and just accept the compliments for what they are. Okay, well, that's all I've got for you today. Only 4 posts today, but that third one was a whole ass novel. So this video still isn't going to be overly short. It's lucky for me that the fat acceptance people don't tend to value brevity. Ha ha. Anyway, what do you guys think? Are the world's doctors all conspiring against fat people? Let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll pay you a visit. Cactus in hand. Ha ha. Catch you later.